Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and a very warm welcome if you are brand new here. My name is KiwiSimsKate because I'm a Kiwi from New Zealand, I love The Sims, and my name is Kate. It's as simple as that. So I do hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good day, good evening, good night, depending on your time zone. Today in New Zealand, I'm recording this voiceover on a Monday evening, and it's summer at the moment in New Zealand. It's beautiful, beautiful weather. I'm looking out my window, perfectly blue sky, hot as anything, probably just a little too muggy for my liking. But I do love seeing the bright sun outside and all the flowers and the birds singing. So, yeah, it's a great day, and I hope you are also having a great day. Today, the build I'm bringing you is a Japanese inspired build, and I've been wanting to build this kind of home for a while. Because I've modeled the floor plan after my brother's home because he lives in Japan. So it's inspired by, it's a rough floor plan of his home. It's definitely not the same. For example, I create the main living room as the tatami room, and in actual fact, the room beside it, they've got kind of a separate room that they sort of just use for kids' storage area as their tatami room, and they don't actually have tatami mats down in any of the heavily used rooms. But certainly the entranceway, the little hallway, the main bathroom, and the toilets and the upstairs, they're all pretty similar. Probably the balcony of his home is a little smaller though as well. The stairs are in the same place. So yeah, I took inspiration from his home. I hope he doesn't mind, because he's been living in Japan for a long time now, maybe close to 20 years, I think. Yeah, it must be around 20 years. And I have been and stayed with him before. Some of you may be aware if you watch my live streams on Twitch, I often talk about it, but I used to live in Japan. I lived there for a couple of years teaching English, not in the same city as my brother, but while I lived there, I did get to visit him a few times, and also prior to living there and since living there, I have also been back to Japan and stayed with my brother. So I know the layout of his home, and I know his home very, very well. So when I started doing speed builds and when Snowy Escape came out, I had always wanted to build this kind of a townhouse because he lives in an area it's not rural, it's not countryside. It is still classed as the city, but a short walk or a short bike ride away, there are rice paddy fields, and you get a little bit more rural. But he is definitely in the city, but it's not kind of high-rise apartment city. So his home is very close to his neighbors. So in that way, this build doesn't reflect that, because the lot that I've placed it in Mount Komorebi is, there's a bit of space around it. There is a home close, and you can see it from this house, but it's not right on top of you, right beside you. Whereas for my brother, the homes are pretty close together, but they're these kind of much more modern Japanese style townhouses, 2 floors. But what I wanted to do differently with this speed build was I wanted it to be for a family who is probably fairly wealthy, and they wanted a new build. So my idea is that this is a modernly built home, but it's built to reflect some of the traditional Japanese architecture styles. So you'll notice in the roofing, when I get to it right near the end, it's more of a traditional roofing style. There are elements within the home that are very traditionally Japanese. For example, I use a lot of the Snowy Escape items in this build, from the wallpapers to the tatami mats, to like pretty much every clutter item that works with the build, I placed it in. So I will, on the gallery, you'll see what packs I use, but at the time of recording this voiceover, I'm afraid I haven't uploaded it to the gallery yet, so I can't tell you exactly what packs it includes, but I do own all packs, so it's quite possible there are quite a few packs used in this build. But in saying that, I feel like I definitely used a lot of Snowy Escape, and I used a lot of Dream Home Decorator. So if you have those two, you could probably get away with downloading this build and just replacing the items that are missing, because I think for the most part I try and stick to those two packs, but it is not a restricted build, so just bear that in mind. There will be probably, the odd item here and there that might be from a pack that you don't have, if you don't have all the packs. So anyway, let me get back to explaining this specific build. This is a 2-story Sims home, and I made it for 4 Sims, 2 parents and 2 children, but there is space for more. There is a bunk bed in one of the children's rooms, so you could just place the second bunk bed in there and, easy peasy. Or you could place a double bed in that. I think a double bed would probably just fit. I haven't tried it. But that's the good thing about the bunk beds, is that you can place them in much smaller rooms and they work fine. So in my mind, I created this home for a 4-sim household: a mum, a dad, and a daughter and a son. And I did have kind of an idea about their personalities. In fact, once I built the home, I liked the home and I had such a clear idea of who I saw in this house that I went into Kaz and I created the family for it as well. So that will also be available on the gallery under I also created the family for it as well. I used a bunch of CCs, so I won't upload it to the gallery, but I might take some screenshots of the family and share them on my socials and things, so you guys can check them out. And the people I had in mind, or the Sims rather, I had in mind for this house was a mother who, in fact, both parents, I imagine, were quite famous young J-pop stars. So both of them were potentially in groups, or maybe the dad was, no, I think both of them were in kind of really popular J-pop groups, so a girl group and a boy group, in their late teens probably, and they were really popular, had a huge amount of fans, and they were kind of, these 2 specific Sims were always kind of in the whatever the Japanese tabloids are, whatever the name for that is, always in the papers, because they started seeing each other, these 2, famous J-pop sensations. So it was like a big deal. Anyway, can you tell I've thought about this far too much? So they got together and they stayed together, and as is the way with many pop groups, both groups kind of, disbanded after a while and went their separate ways. And so the mum and the dad in this house, I imagine, don't technically need to work, but perhaps the dad is like a music teacher now, and I imagine the mother is probably a stay-at-home mum, even though her kids are probably old enough for her to go back to work. She just has chosen not to. And the mum and dad both earned plenty of money through their earlier careers that they don't technically need to work anymore. So those are the parents. And then the children, I imagine, so I made this house, or I decorated this house for a teenage girl and a child sim boy. But of course, you just change it and put whatever sim you want in there. I feel like I've made both rooms fairly gender neutral. You could have, I think you could have any kind of sim in those rooms. But personality wise, the child sim, I think I decorated their room with probably a stronger idea of their personality. So I imagined that child sim is really into mountaineering and skiing and snowboarding and hiking and all of the things, the activities that we got with the Snowy Escape pack. So I've used a lot of the Snowy Escape items in their room. They have the climbing bedspread as well. They've got a bunch of climbing and mountain decor, which I thought was quite cool. And yeah, I think, potentially the child represents their school or something in national skiing champs. I don't know, but they're quite good and they really, really enjoy it and are enthusiastic about it. And then the teenage sim, I didn't give them a hugely specific personality. I also put a musical instrument in both child's rooms, so a violin in the girls' room and a guitar in the boys' room. And then actually, when I was going to play test, so this build has all been play tested. When I went to play test it, I realized that, children can't actually play the guitar instruments in the game, and I totally forgot about that. But I left it there because, at some point that sim that you have in there will age up, or maybe you will put a teenager or an adult in there. So I just left it. But I did have in mind that probably both children did learn an instrument each. Because I also, actually, he has two instruments. So he has the guitar, but he also has the keyboard as well in his room. And then other than that, the teenager just has a desk with a computer, some pictures, those kind of string of photographs and lights above the bed. So fairly generic, that one. And then the parents' room. The parents' room is actually the one I furnished first, so my voiceover might be completely off of the video, I'm afraid, but I got a little bit sidetracked at the beginning of this voiceover, didn't I? You'll just have to bear with me, I'm afraid. The parents' room, I really love how this room turned out. I really love the colours. I used a lot of different shades of brown, different wood tones. In fact, the whole house, I wanted to use loads of different wood tones. So obviously one of the wallpapers that we got with Snowy Escape is this really lovely, I don't even know how you describe the style of wall, but do you know, all the Snowy Escape wallpapers are very cool. In my opinion, I really like them. And they're so very Japanese in my eyes. But yeah, I used the wallpapers as kind of inspiration, and a lot of the objects from the pack as well came in a lot of different really warm, rich wood tones. So I used that to, it's not really a color scheme of the home, but I used the colors in the pack to determine the look and feel of the home. So I tried to mix and match as well. It's not all light woods, it's not all dark woods. There's kind of a little bit of everything. And I really like how it turned out. So I hope you enjoy it as well. But particularly, I would love to live in that parents' room. I think that bedroom is beautiful. All the browns, and yeah, it just looks expensive, I think. It's not the biggest room, but it because of the colours and the furnishings, it kind of looks a bit expensive. I also furnish a little bit in the hallway. I didn't want to go too cluttered in this house in general, because I think the mother in particular likes things being really clean and tidy and not minimalist necessarily, but certainly not cluttered. And I have a lot of fun cluttering up builds in The Sims, so it was kind of difficult to just stop myself and not put too much out. But I do love a good cluttered home. It also makes it a lot easier when you're going to play test it, because there's kind of a bit more space around and your Sims can get around a little bit more. I did have to change a few things. So for example, in the child's room, the little doctor's play set, it didn't work or rather the toy behind it, you couldn't get to it. So I moved the doctor's play set just a tad, barely noticeable. In fact, I don't even know, like, you probably would not really notice it if I hadn't said anything, so I probably should have just kept my mouth shut. But the last room upstairs that I furnish is the child's room, and I enjoyed placing those kind of mountaineering signs up. I hadn't really thought of doing that before, and I think it looks kind of, I don't know, I think it's, yeah, a little bit unique. Something a bit different to just placing paintings, because after a while, if you're not using CC, if you're building a lot in The Sims, which I do, you get a little bit sick of the same things over and over again. So I liked mixing it up and placing something that maybe isn't necessarily meant as a poster or a photo or a painting on the wall, and it kind of went with the color scheme of the whole room, kind of blues and browns in the child's room. And I have another sort of half bath upstairs, just a toilet and a sink, because that's what my brother has in his house. And then I go in and I actually swap out the closet that I placed in the parents' room. I liked it, but I really wanted to use as many Snowy Escape items as possible. And I hadn't yet used the Snowy Escape dresser. So I realized that exists at one stage, and so I take out the built-in dresser and I place the Snowy Escape dresser and just put a little bit of clutter above it. Not too much, just a little bit. You may also notice a few extra cuts in this video than you might be used to in my videos. I really, really try my hardest to cut out as little footage as possible. But honestly, if I had not done the cuts that I'd done, this video would be far too long. And I've already said in previous builds and voiceovers that I'm not a very fast builder. I'm a pretty slow builder, which is kind of ridiculous for the amount of time I spend in The Sims. And, the amount of time I've been playing it. But I am still kind of indecisive when I build, and even though I have an idea in mind, I like to look through everything. So for your benefit, I cut out just things that I felt were not particularly relevant in the build. And you will see maybe you won't even notice it, but for me, I notice the cuts and they bother me, but they've got to be done. Otherwise, no one's going to watch a 1.5 hour video from me. And I also don't want to speed it up any further, because to me, I feel like this is probably the fastest I would like. I would really like it to be slower, but then it increases the length of the video. So that's why I did that. Another weird thing you might notice that's quite different to the way my previous speed builds have gone, I do the exterior of the house last. I often finish with the landscaping. That's not anything new. That's not weird. But I generally decorate the outside of the house and get the outside wallpapers and windows and all those details in first. That's normally the first thing I do, and then I move into the exterior, and then I do the landscaping. But I don't know why I didn't do it that way this time. I was also working on quite a small lot. I think this is a 20 by 15, if my memory serves me well. And the position I wanted the house to go in, so the front door was right by the path, it just wasn't going to fit unless I changed the shape of the house, and I didn't want to do that. So you'll notice I kind of go back and forth and change my mind a bit and move the house around, rotate it, and so it takes me a little while to figure that sort of stuff out. But once the exterior of the house does come together, I am really happy with it. I have a bit of trouble with the roofing too, which, no surprises there. Roofing is just slowly I get better the more I build, and the further I push my comfort zones about what I build, I think that I improve by doing that as well. So different styles of builds and stuff is really advantageous to becoming a better builder. I think that it's important that, if you're going to be a sort of build content creator in The Sims, you need to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, and you need to try styles that you might not necessarily play in, or might not necessarily think you can build. Just give it a go. That would be my advice, which I don't know if anyone asked for, but there you go. You've got it. I like what I did with the landscaping too in this build. I do a few firsts in this build. I merge those little kind of grass wall decorations to the shutters, the window shutters, which I liked. I put in a pond, which is not a new thing. I've done ponds before, but it's quite a small garden, and I don't necessarily imagine the household spends a lot of time outside in their own garden. At least, they would go away and go on a holiday skiing or something. And I think the pond is just something that's there for decoration, for the traditional look that they were going for when they built the house. That's kind of what I thought anyway. So there's not really anywhere to sit outside. There's no entertaining space. It's purely just for aesthetics, and just to look pretty and to look kind of traditional Japanesey. So there's there's a few kind of debug items. There's the little what's it called? Not fountain, the kind of water feature where the water comes out of the bamboo into the small stone bowl. I really love that. Love, love, love that object. I also used the bamboo tree, which I think is a debug item, that has all the notes, the colourful tags hanging off it. Very Japanese as well. And I placed some fish in the pond. So in gameplay, you will see the little fish swimming around. And of course, well, actually, I don't do a lot of gameplay. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, tell me down in the comments, if you were to place a fishing sign at this pond and I've placed fish in it, can you fish? Is that all you need to be able to fish? Or are there other kind of boxes you need to check for it to happen? I don't know. Tell me. I don't know. I don't play the game enough, clearly. Speaking of playing the game, and speaking of stream, I mentioned earlier that I stream on Twitch. I predominantly actually do a lot of gameplay in my streams. Funnily enough, because I'm not a big game player in my spare time, but I find it really fun on stream because I think it's a bit more interactive with chat. And if you want to join me, would love to have you with us. I stream twice a week, New Zealand Daylight Time on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and Saturdays at midday. And our Saturday streams we are playing Survivor Sulani. So Survivor, the reality TV show, but done in The Sims, and there are tribes and they compete against each other in challenges and they vote each other out, and eventually there will be one winner. So that's it for this build. The screenshots are going to be up shortly, and if you'd like to download this build, my gallery ID is KiwiSimsKate, and you can find this build and all of my other ones there. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel, and hit that subscribe button. I recently hit 150 subscribers on YouTube and I'm excited. I am growing slowly but surely. I would love to have you be a part of my community. You'll be able to then follow along and be notified when I've got new videos out. You can also follow me on Twitch, where I stream, as I mentioned, which is twitch.com/KiwiSimsKate. And my Twitter and Instagram handles are also both KiwiSimsKate, and they're really great places to just keep up with everything that I'm up to, all my updates, all my builds, etc, etc. So thank you so much for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Take care out there. Bye.